campaign staff is incredibly diverse, from our consultants to the people that actually work on our campaign. In Ward 6, you're talking about a very rich, diverse community, and that's something I want to continue to make happen.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. At this point, I'm going to allow the questions from the floor. I'm going to ask you to be brief, to make your question or comment, and then we'll get the candidates a minute each to respond to the questions or comments. Questions? Number one here, number two there. Julia Lara, please.
Thank you so much. I'm Julia Lara. I'm a member of the Latino Caucus. I'm also an educator by training. And one of the concerns that the Latino Caucus has, and the Latino community in particular, has to do with the issue of the high dropout rates that we're seeing across the city as it relates not only to the general population, specifically African American students, but more particularly Latino students have a higher dropout rate than is the case for other public school students in the district. And so what I want to hear is how you, should you be successful, are going to bring, first of all, visibility to this issue, which we believe is not the case currently. And then secondly, what do you think you could do to stem this outflow of our kids leaving the public school and the charter school system?
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Thompson.
So this is a challenge that we have to address citywide and certainly in Ward 6. Our schools in Ward 6, Eastern High School on East Capitol Street, and Dunbar, while not in Ward 6, summerly a lot of our students get into Dunbar High School. We've got to make sure that we are providing enrichment programs and opportunities to capture kids. If some of our students are struggling, that means we should make sure that we can identify who's struggling, provide coursework, provide corrective coursework if we can, make sure our students have all the services they need. The other thing we've also got to be prepared to do is expand vocational training and bring vocational training back to our schools. We're going to graduate students in just a few months that are going to need skills to compete in this workforce. And identifying students' needs and providing vocational training is one way that we can make sure we keep students in our schools and provide them a real opportunity in life when they graduate from Eastern Dunbar and other schools in Cardozo in the next few months.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso.
I think you're not going to see a lot of difference in terms of the way we talk about the need, particularly when we talk about at-risk youth. But I'm going to tell you how we're going to get it done. Part of that is we just went through the DC Adams Study. And what that did is it told us as a city how we have to fund our education differently so that we target our resources to our at-risk youth to make sure they've got what they need, have those wraparound services, those enhanced services, and make sure that we have in the classroom the things that they need to make sure that they are successful. I believe that we need to follow those recommendations and increase the funding. In particular, Adams Study also additional funding for ELL. And that's something, it's a dramatic improvement in funding that's going to be needed. Now to your question about how do we make sure from a DCPS and charter, we just went with the check campus. There's an initiative to have about $6 million that would go there to help improve that. And we had an administration that said, no, we can't do that because they look at it as funding to the charters that they don't want to provide. I don't think that's right. I think that's exactly where we want to look at that type of innovative funding, innovative programs to help support something like the check campus.
Thank you. Please say your name and your question.
My name is Maria Patricia Morales. I'm the president of the DC Hispanic Contractors. I'm also president of the largest Hispanic festival of the District of Columbia. I have two questions. One is, what are you planning on doing for the DC contractors that live in the city and we are not being served? We have the largest fees for the District of Columbia. They charge us to be a general contractor. And guess what? We don't get that service. We don't get that help to graduate from subcontractors to the general contractors. We are basically, myself for the past 4 years, and I have experience of 30 years in construction. I have built, as I say, babies in the city. And I only have done one job for the District of Columbia as a general contractor. That case, with all my help, I have done one. Could you imagine the rest of the people that don't have Massachusetts Avenue and Independence Avenue. What are your plans for that? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Allen.
All of that in 60 seconds?
No, you have more.
Please, thank you.
All right, 45 seconds each. On the first part, that's exactly why when we talk about big projects in our city, big projects in our ward, we've got to have really strong agreements and commitments that make sure that we hire local and that we work with our local contractors. When I look at the Department of Employment Services, though, frankly, I don't see throwing more money at them as really helping solve that. It might be nibbling on the edge. I think that we need to rethink how we have the Department of Employment Services work, and potentially to look at a Department of Labor. That is something that brings a new focus to how we are partnering to create those types of pathways and pipelines for our DC-based businesses and our subcontractors. Really fast. On shelters, no way to answer that in 30 seconds. However, one of the things that I think that we've got to do is recommit ourselves to what's called housing first. And what that does is it takes people out of shelters, off the floors of rec centers, and puts a stable roof over their head. That's a way that, I provide stable housing for a family, for a chronically homeless person, but make sure that you can also address whether it's addiction, substance abuse, mental health issues, job training, all of that has to go with it. And if I'm kicking you out of the shelter in the morning and letting you back in at night, there's no way I can address those things. So stable roof over their head.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
I talk about this every day on the campaign. When we're using your tax dollars and folks right here in this room, district residents have to be the recipient of that. I call it the multiplier effect. If we're going to use tax dollars to build a project, you as a contractor, I want to make sure that you're a part of that, and also that your workforce that's from the District of Columbia is a part of that. That way we're not just building the project, you're getting a piece of the pie, we're training people to be a part of the project, and giving them opportunities down the road. We can't talk about this without also talking about CBE and regulatory reform at the same time. That's something we've got to be prepared to look at. I know the council's going to be looking at this very soon. And in terms of the shelter, it costs us more to put people in shelters than it does to put them in homes. Okay? That's the reality. And this isn't a problem that just crept up on us overnight. This is years of neglect. So as your council member, I'm going to make sure that we're funding housing programs, we're providing additional funding for the production trust fund. Again, so that you as a contractor have a part of the opportunity to build some of these projects. And again, putting people to work right there. That's how we move our work in. I talked about making sure that this ward in this city moves forward for everyone.
Thank you so much. Once again, please give a round of applause to our candidates for Ward 6, Mr. Carl Allen, Mr. Joel Thompson. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mario. I want to thank you once again, our candidate for Ward 6. Give it up for them, please. Thank you so much. And recognize the presence of folks online who are watching us also. We're excited you're with us. And let's go ahead and give us both candidates who came out today, Armand.
Thank you very much.
You got it here. Thank you for coming again. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you. And so we want to make sure the next round of candidates will be hearing from the candidates who are running for the shadow Senate. And I think that we don't have anybody from that race yet. I think there's Very good, yeah, so we're a little early, so we're right on time, so this is great. And so we just want to make sure right now that we take a little bit of time, since we have some free time, to recognize anybody who is running for office. If they want to say a few words, I know that there are a bunch of people running for the Democratic Party State Committee, and I think we may have one or two. I think Mario Cristaldo is running for the State Democratic Party. We only have one, and Dr. Lara herself, and of course Tim Thomas, I see him here too. So we want to make sure that, and of course Mr. Harrington Dixon also is also running. So while we wait for the other candidates, we want to go ahead and give you all an opportunity. Keep it brief, maybe about a minute, just to introduce yourselves. Your audience, in addition to the ones that are here, is also people online who are watching it. Okay, here we go. Please state your name and your platform. Thank you.
My name is Harrington Dixon. I'm running for Democratic National Committee, a position which I've held in the past. I would like to do it again. I'm also running on a slate called DC Dems Ready for Hillary, and we are 4 of us running. Philip Pinell is running as my alternate National Committee man. 7. Of course, these people have been active in the party for quite a while, and I'd like you to support all of us. We're trying to get folks activated to support Hillary in the election. We hope she will announce, and we feel that she deserves and should be, and is probably the best qualified person we've ever had to run for president. So we'd like to see that happen also. That's one of our goals. Also, one of my goals is to hopefully get the party to unite, the Democratic Party to unite after these primaries, because we need to come together and support all of our Democrats who are selected. I hope.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Timothy Thomas. I'm a Ward 5 resident. I've been in Ward 5 for over 50 years. I work for the Office of the Attorney General for the District of Columbia. Been there for over 30 years. I was a former chair of Ward 5 Dem.